I'm wanting you to do a life audit. I said before, life is managed, not cured, and you are the manager. You are your life manager, and it is time to do an audit. Do you have people there that you just wish were not? Hey, it's Dr. Phil. This is Fill in the Blanks, and I am very excited about our session today. Let me tell you why. We have been talking about toxic personalities in the real world, and you are becoming an expert in personality disorders. Not because I want you to become a diagnostician, not because I want you to diagnose yourself, but because I want you to be able to spot red flags when you have certain toxic personalities in your life, or if you have certain toxic characteristics in your own behavioral repertoire that you want to put on the to-do list to get rid of. Now, we talked about narcissism, 4 different types. We've talked about borderline personality and what to do about it. And then we talked about antisocial personality, which is kind of the worst of both of the other two, plus some new characteristics that I call getting weaponized with you as the target. Or if it's you that has those traits and characteristics, you lose control and you just tend to be aggressive instead of assertive. Now, if you're just joining this series on toxic personalities in the real world, I'm going to encourage you to go back to the first session on narcissism and listen to everything that we've talked about so far, because this is a building process. And as I said before, we're really doing an in-depth thing here. I'm not giving you a lot of citations from the literature. I'm not covering you up with a lot of statistics, but I'm telling you a lot of what you would learn if you were in graduate school and you were being taught about these disorders. I'm not doing that because I want you to self-diagnose or diagnose others. As I said, I'm doing this because you can't deal with what you don't acknowledge. There may be people in your life where you say, I don't understand why I get so frustrated with these people. Well, I'm going to tell you why you get so frustrated with these people. You get so frustrated with them because they're frustrating. They have traits and characteristics that victimize and create really undesirable outcomes for you and the people you love and care about. If some of the things we've been talking about seem to apply to you, okay, then that becomes a to-do list for you. I'm not asking you to sit in judgment of yourself or someone else. I'm asking you to acknowledge the existence of this. I'm going to give you 8 identifiers that may help you expand this list. I asked you to just go on your gut. Now let me give you some things that might expand the list. This is what I call the evil 8. These are the 8 characteristics that these people tend to have that might make them get on that list if they aren't already there. Do they see the world through a lens of arrogant entitlement and frequently treat people as targets? Is there anybody in your life that tends to see the world through a lens of arrogant entitlement? They just think they're entitled and they treat people as targets. Number 2, do they lack empathy? They don't feel for anybody else, just themselves. 3, are they incapable of feeling remorse, guilt? They fail to learn from situation to situation. You've seen them do something that you thought, well, it's really stupid, and then they do it again and again. They do not learn from situation to situation. Number 4, are there people in your life that are just irresponsible and self-destructive? And do they disregard not only well-being for themselves, but also for others? Do they put themselves at risk and you with it? Do they do things that put your job in peril, your safety in peril? Have they put your children in peril? Poor judgment. Done things that's just irresponsible and self-destructive, and it washes off on others around them. Do you have people that thrive on drama and crisis? They're just not satisfied unless there's some big drama, some crisis. They thrive on it. They need it. And it seems to follow them around. If there's a crisis, if there's drama, they're always right in the middle of it. There might be a drama at church, and then there was some big problem at the grocery store. Then there was some big problem at school. And the common denominator was that person. They were at the church, they were at the supermarket, they were at school. They are the common denominator. It follows them around. I mentioned this one earlier. Do they brag about outsmarting other people? There's somebody in your life, but they'll sit around and say, oh boy, I tell you, my last job, I had that boss thinking that I was working 60 hours a week and I didn't do anything. Now, somebody that'll brag about that, that's dumb. That's not okay. Do you have somebody like that in your life? Number 7, if you look back through their lives, do they have a pattern of short-term relationships? They just don't seem to be able to last with anybody. And lastly, do they live in a fantasy world marked by delusion? I mean, you have a way of seeing the world. Everybody else has a way of seeing the world, and then they see it differently. They just are in la-la land. They live in a world of their own. These 8, what I call the evil 8, see the world through an arrogant lens of entitlement, lack of empathy, no remorse, irresponsible, self-destructive, thriving on drama and crisis, bragging about outsmarting other people, pattern of short-term relationships, and living in a fantasy world. Does that expand your list of who you had on there to begin? Because I'm wanting you to do a life audit. I said before, life is managed, not cured, and you are the manager. You are your life manager, and it is time to do an audit. Do you have people there that you just wish were not? Maybe they meet some of those 8. Maybe they meet them all. But let me tell you, we're going to do something about that. And cleaning up your life begins with giving yourself permission to get rid of people that your gut tells you don't belong in your life. They've just been there. Why are they there? They're there today because they were there yesterday. And they're there yesterday because they were there the day before. They're not there because you want them there. They're not there because they have your best interest at heart. They're just there because they were already there, and that is no reason to have people be there. You need people in your life because they have a right to be in your life, not because they're squatters. You need to give yourself permission to get these people out of your life. You giving yourself permission to do this is going to begin with you realizing that you have to start a new day and you have to have a defined image in your life. Look, I believe in a defined product. Think about Dr. Phil. When you think about me, you don't confuse me with anybody else, do you? People may love me, they may hate me, but they do not confuse me with anybody else. When you think Dr. Phil, you know what you're going to get. And that is not by accident. I am who I am on purpose. I have a defined image of who I am in my mind. And I am committed to that. I am going to ride that horse to the end. I have decided who I am. I am at peace with that. And I am committed to that. And I am going to ride that horse to the end. I've been riding it for 45 years. I am committed to it. It doesn't mean I can't evolve. It doesn't mean I can't grow. But the core values of who I am are who I am. Who are you? If who you are is letting toxic people populate your landscape, then you need to change that. And I'm telling you, give yourself permission to eliminate toxic people from your life. That's why I wanted you to do an audit. That's why I gave you 8 different things. Do these people have any of these 8 qualities or characteristics? Do they use any of these 15 tactics to get in your life? Your gut said put this number of people on the list. I gave you 8 different characteristics, 15 different tactics. Does that broaden the list? Whoever is on that list, give yourself permission. You have to have a defined image, and that image should not be someone that populates their landscape with toxic people. Get them out of your life. And you say, what do you mean get them out of your life? Choose not to spend time with them. Put up boundaries. They want to come over to your house and create drama, then you have the right to assertively, not aggressively, assertively say, listen, I'm sorry. I don't have time for this tonight. I don't have energy for this. I'm going to ask you to excuse yourself and take this with you. So, are you asking me to leave? Yes, I thought I was clear. I'm asking you to leave. Well, I'm not good enough for you. I'm going to let you interpret this however you want. What I'm telling you is I don't want this drama in my life, and I want you to be somewhere else. So I wish you nothing but the best. I hope you find peace and happiness somewhere else. But it's not working for me, and I need some space. So thank you, and good night. And that's all you have to do. You have to give yourself permission to do that. You have to control your relationships. And that has to be part of your image. I am someone that controls my relationships. I am not a victim. I don't let other people control my relationships. I've said a million times, if you're in a hole, quit digging. Don't let these people continue to, you need to decide who you are going forward, not who you are in the past. Look, everybody was somebody else yesterday. We all evolve. I don't care who you were yesterday. I want to know who you choose to be today. And you have to decide what that self-image is. And that self-image needs to be, I'm not going to let toxic people control my life. I have the right to assertively put up boundaries. So that's one characteristic of this new image I'm asking you to embrace. A second characteristic that I want you to embrace is, what is your uniqueness? What about you is unique? And I'll tell you why I want you to know that. Because it is critically important to me that you star in your own life. It's critically important to me that you star in your own life. And think about it. If you don't star in your life, who will? You may be thinking, okay, Dr. Phil, you've lost me now. I'm a stay-at-home mom married to a plumber. So exactly how do you want me to star in my life? Well, how much time you got? Because I will tell you how I want you to star in your life. I want you to star as a wife. I want you to star as a mother. I want you to star as a Christian, as a volunteer. I want you to star at your job. I want you to star in every walk of life that you occupy. I want you to be the absolute best that you can be. I want you to have star quality. I want you to take pride and star in your own life. Do not feel like a bit player in your own life. And I'm not talking about you have to wear a crown on your head or have spotlights and cameras on you all the time. That's not what being a star is about. Being a star is about being good at what you do and taking pride and having passion in everything that you do. And it doesn't matter what that is. It doesn't matter what you do. What matters is that you take pride in what you do. I guarantee you, if I'm mowing the yard, and I'm going to be honest, I don't mow the yard a lot, But if I do, I'm going to take pride in it. If I get up in the morning and shave, I take pride in shaving well. If I get up and make the bed, I'm going to make it well. Whatever you do, do it well. I mean, come on, let's start having some pride, some personal pride in everything we do. That is terribly, terribly important. When you do well, you're going to get praised for it, and you need to learn to accept that. You know, it always puzzles me when somebody does really well at something and somebody says, "Hey, great job." You go, "Oh, listen, no, it was nothing." No, it wasn't nothing. Doing a great job at anything isn't nothing. It's something. When you get praise, learn to say thank you. Thank you for that. If you do something really well, something really special, and somebody steps up and says, "Hey, great job on handling those kids this morning." Well, thank you for noticing. I really appreciate it. Thank you. But I want to answer some questions now. And my producer, LaFern, is going to join and communicate some of your questions because I want to answer them. So, LaFern?
Thank you so much, Dr. Phil. I have never received so many questions from our fill in the blanks community. Here's some of them. Can a bipolar daughter and a borderline personality disorder mother ever be able to work out their relationship? And this is from Jenny.
Well, and that's a great question, Jenny. So thank you for asking that. First off, I need to identify that I am the incurable optimist. And you said bipolar daughter and borderline mother, correct?
Correct, yes.
And this is from the grandmother of the bipolar daughter. Okay. So she has a bipolar granddaughter and a borderline personality daughter.
Yes.
Okay. My answer is I can't think of a reason why they cannot have a good relationship. First off, bipolar, I would want to know if it's bipolar 1 or bipolar 2. Bipolar 1 has much more manic phases than bipolar 2, and it is the most disruptive of the two. Let's assume the worst. Let's assume that it's bipolar 1, and so she has sustained manic episodes. This is a disorder that is very manageable. This is one of those things that with psychopharmacology in combination with cognitive behavioral therapy is very manageable and does not have to be highly disruptive to someone's life if they manage it and they're compliant with the medical regimen. So that doesn't have to be a problem. And with a borderline personality mother, if in fact that is an accurate diagnosis, if that mother is willing to present herself for help and therapy, then by all means, she can work to manage and control that. And if she does that and gets some insight of her own, then they can certainly do some therapy together. There is a particular type of therapy called dialectical behavior therapy that can be very helpful with a borderline personality disorder, and it really can help. It's kind of a cognitive behavioral therapy with an added strong emphasis on change and acceptance, on balance change. And they identify and change negative internal dialogue, and they push for positive behavioral change. And one of the things that they really focus on is distress tolerance, because borderline personalities are very reactive and they tend to overreact and dramatize everything. And one of the things that DBT does is help people through mindfulness, which is a meditative type part of the therapy help people to live in the moment, and they learn to observe and accept what's happening in the moment instead of judging and avoiding what's happening. It helps them control their reactivity and allows them to go further into their relationships. So this is an evidence-based therapy. And by evidence-based therapy, we mean that there is empirical evidence that demonstrates this therapy works. This was developed by Dr. Marsha Linehan, and she has done some fabulous research on this. So there's really great tools, clinical tools, to help with borderline personality disorder. And there is excellent help for bipolar disorder. So there's no reason in the world that these two cannot learn to have a great relationship between the two of them.
Yeah, and I know that Robin just had on Mystic Michaela, who was talking about meditation and how you can come to terms with yourself, right?
Right, and that just goes right back to the mindfulness and accepting who you are in the moment. And I'm particularly a fan of distress tolerance. The whole idea is, look, not everything in your life is going to be great, and so you learn to deal with it. Really, you're going to have problems. You just learn to deal with it. Okay, next question.
In listening to the series, I'm wondering if anyone has any success in convincing someone with these disorders to get help. That's from Joe.
Well, I'll let people respond to that on the message boards, but let me say this. I'll share a strategy that I've had in convincing people to accept help. When you tell someone, even if you say it from a place of love, you need help, it tends to cause people to be defensive because there's just a judgmental element to you need help. What I do instead, and I've had great success with this, and it sounds like maybe just semantics, but I tell you it makes a huge difference, is to say to that person, you deserve to have some assistance with this. I see you experiencing pain sometimes. I see you going through a lot of conflict. I really love you and care about you, and I just think you deserve better. You never learn more about something than when you have to crystallize it in your mind and make a coherent presentation of it. My working with all of these and doing this series, it's like sharpening your tool. I've gotten a lot out of this and am getting a lot out of this, so it's helping me a lot as well. So I really appreciate everybody's great feedback, and it's inspired me to dig in, and you know how much research I do, and I feel like I'm getting as much out of it as anybody that's listening. I do want to say again to everyone, I'm really so proud of this series, and I want everyone to contact at least one friend, one person that you really love and care about, and ask them to subscribe to Fill in the Blanks and start at the beginning of this series. Don't ask them to start in the middle of this or jump in on one particular disorder you think that may be relevant to them. Start at the beginning of this series, Toxic Personalities in the Real World, and listen. If you've gotten a lot out of this, share it with somebody you love and care about, because we've got some great things coming up. Find at least one person and get them to subscribe and join with you so you have somebody that you can resonate with about this. So I appreciate your support. Thank you, and I'll see you next Tuesday.